Welcome to the channel. This is Oblivion, and in today's video I'm going to do a re-refined Theorycraft of some old Gen 1 units. The units covered in today's video were voted on by the community in a poll, so if you want to help decide who is the next re-refined video, make sure to vote in the new poll that will be pinned down below. Originally I only planned to do 3 units, but at the time of making this video the poll was so close between Jaffar and Seth I decided to do both. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The first unit we're going to look at today is Camilla, and Camilla is a Gen 1 Axe Flyer. She's actually one of the first 5 stars I pulled alongside Roy. Now, she is definitely showing her age. At max stats, she can have a decent stat line, but overall, she just cannot keep up with the current level of power creep. So let's look at her base weapon at first to get an idea of where she's currently at. If unit is within 2 spaces of a cavalry or flying ally, grants attacks and speed +4 during combat. So essentially this is a minor, very minor stat buff with some pretty strict conditions, to be honest. And then her refine is really just a support buff. So there's honestly not much here that can really be useful nowadays. And so we need to upgrade that base effect first to get Camilla into a little bit of a better position. So let's go ahead and check out the new base effect I gave to her weapon. Grants attack +3. If unit initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grants attack, speed, defense, resistance +5 during combat, and unit can move to a space adjacent to any ally within 2 spaces. Now this still seems like a pretty tame effect. It fixes the stat check so she has a much easier time getting +5 to all stats, and it also does increase the amount of stats. And then she gets a nice little teleport effect so she can jump around to her allies wherever she needs to be. Now let's get to the new refiner effect where the real power is. Grants deals damage equal 20% of Camilla's attack and reduces damage from foes' attack by 20% of Camilla's resistance to allies from Fate's title. So this is an extremely powerful effect. This essentially gives Spring Maria's effect, but in drive form, and instead of it being based off the unit stats, it's based off Camilla's stats, so her attack and resistance. And this is extremely powerful. This is going to allow Camilla to support her allies, giving true damage and true defense, or true resistance in this case, to allies from Fate titles. When theory crafting these re-refines, I really wanted to capture the character's personality, and in Fates, Camilla is that older sister type, the motherly type, who is always trying to protect her family and friends. And she kind of, she's more cold to her non-friends, but when it comes to her friends, she's very, very protective. And so I wanted to capture that effect in her weapon refine, as well as I wanted to pay homage to her personal skill from Fate's Rose's Thorn, which in that game, it gave adjacent allies 3 extra damage and made them receive 1 less damage. So I kind of captured that effect with this refine, and I think honestly this is extremely powerful. It's going to make Camilla one of the most powerful supports for Fate's characters. And while I could have made it so that it was just a general drive anyone could have made a use of, I think it fits her character better if it's only to Fate's characters, right? It's only to her friends, to her allies, people she knows. And at the same time, it makes it so that I can make a really powerful effect like this, and yet it's still not overbearing or ridiculous. But it does allow you to build around Camilla and make your ultimate Fates team. Our next unit is going to be Seth, and Seth is a complete badass in Sacred Stones. He's a complete monster who just doesn't die, can kill whatever he fights, and Faye did him extremely dirty. They essentially gave him a Triangle Adept weapon, and then with Speed Tactic attached to it. It has nothing to do with his personality, it doesn't capture anything of what he's like in Sacred Stones, and honestly it's just a complete blasphemy of a weapon to give Seth, and we haven't gotten any ults of him yet, so they haven't even been able to redeem him. So when it came to his refine, I wanted to capture the power that Seth has in Sacred Stones. I wanted to capture that feel of him just being able to fight anyone and always feel like he's at an advantage. And even when he gets beat up, he still finds a way to win those fights. Now originally I planned to do this by just giving him a ton of powerful effects, if I'm not lying. But over time, I kind of found that it wasn't too much fun. It wasn't really original. So the idea I came up for this weapon was I was trying to find a way to make a Triangle Adept weapon actually good. And hopefully I succeeded. So let's look at his base effect now. So the new base effect of the weapon is Accelerate Special Cooldown Count -1. If unit is above 25% HP or within 2 spaces of an ally, grants all stats +5. Grants Weapon Triangle Advantage against red and colorless foes, and inflicts Weapon Triangle Disadvantage on red and colorless foes. Neutralizes Weapon Triangle Advantage and Weapon Triangle Disadvantage against blue foes. So what this base effect does is allows Seth to fight with advantage against red and colorless foes, and then obviously green foes who he naturally has the Weapon Triangle advantage against. This means he's going to have 20% more attack against those foes, and they'll also have 20% less attack, so he's going to have a great matchup against those. And then it also neutralizes the Weapon Triangle against blue foes, so no longer are they going to have that advantage over him. He won't have an advantage over them, but it will be an even matchup. So I think this kind of has the Triangle Adept power in it, while also not being ridiculous. But that's about to change with the refined. So the refined for this weapon is if unit has weapon triangle advantage against a foe, grants +5 to all stats, reduces damage taken by 30%, and heals 30% of max HP when special triggers. So this kind of takes Seth and just makes him completely ridiculous, because he's going to have weapon triangle advantage against 3/4 of the colors, right? Colors, green, and red units. He's going to be getting +10 to all stats. He's reducing the damage he takes by 30% just flat from every attack he gets hit by. And then also that special trigger is going to allow him to heal. So I think this captures Seth from Sacred Stones extremely well, right? That feeling where he's just immortal, you can't take him down. He goes into the enemy team, just completely destroys it, and somehow survives. And I think the best part about this is that I kind of found a way to actually make Triangle Adept 3 a good skill on him, right? Because it's going to give that additional 20% attack and that minus 20% attack to foes with that skill. So that skill is actually amazing on Seth. Though you could also, go with like a distant counter build or something like that. This weapon gives Seth a lot of flexibility and can really allow him to do whatever he wants, which in my opinion captures Sacred Stone Seth the best. Next, we have female and male Robin, and these units were by far the most voted on unit in the poll. They have not aged the best, I'm not going to lie. They have 149 BST, extremely low. Their stat line is not great, with Super Banes almost in every stat. Even at max investment with +10 and +20 Dragonflowers and Ascended Floret, they're not having the best stat line, if we're being completely honest. And their preference weapon really isn't helping them much either. It grants weapon triangle advantage against colorless units, inflicts weapon triangle disadvantage against colorless units, and then gives that like tactics buff, but only at +4. It's extremely underwhelming, to be honest. So with this new effect and this refine, I wanted to make sure to capture the tactician feel of the Robins, right? We have the other Grima units, the Grima Alt of Robin, and they kind of capture like the aggressive, powerful feel of Grima. But with the tactician of Robin, I wanted to capture that in an effect. So let's look at their new base effect. Their new base effect is grants attack +3, weapon triangle against colorless foes, and weapon triangle disadvantage on colorless foes during combat. If unit's HP is greater than 25%, grant +5 all stats during combat. Very simple base effect. We're getting that attack +3 on there to help a little bit with their attack stat, and then we're also giving 5 stats during combat. Seems very basic, very simple, and you would be correct. But now let's check out the refined. At start of turn, grants attack, speed, defense, resistance +6 to unit and allies within 2 spaces for 1 turn. Granted only if tactics requirement is met, so you have to have 2 or less units of a movement type on your team. And then grants attack, speed, defense, and resistance +X to allies within 3 rows or 3 columns centered on unit during combat, where X is the current bonus on each of unit's stats. So this refine grants joint omni tactics. It's going to give +6 to all stats to units within 2 spaces of Robin, as well as giving the unit themselves +6 to all stats, which is extremely powerful, extremely amazing, easily makes Robin an amazing support unit. But we're going to take it one step further, and we're going to make Robin into one of the best supports in the entire game. So Robin can give out +6 to all stats within 3 rows of 3 columns. So this is kind of like Gatekeeper's effect, where he can give 6 attack and speed in that massive 3 rows of 3 column area, but now Robin can do it with all stats. And I think this really captures the strategic tactician feel of Robin, where they're kind of in the backline giving out commands and supporting their units from a distance, but at the same time they can get into combat and do a lot of damage, right? They're gonna have the +5 to all stats on the base effect and then +6 from all the buffs, so you actually have a massive stat swing with Robin, and at the same time you have one of the best support units in the game. Our last unit for the video is going to be Jaffar, and Jaffar is one of my favorites, and unfortunately he came out on one of the first banners in FEH, so he is extremely underwhelming. So let's look at his stats. He has 41 HP, 40 attack. Now that might seem pretty good, right? If you didn't know though, that's with his weapon equipped. So his base attack is actually 26, 33 speed, 25 defense, 22 resistance. His stat line is utter garbage. It is so bad, it's not even funny. Even at +10 with +20 Dragonflowers and an Ascended Floret, his stats still don't look that great. He only has 54 attack and 46 speed. Not really catching up to any units released nowadays. Now let's look at his weapon as well. So definitely Dagger. After combat, if unit attack, deals 10 damage to target and foes within 2 spaces of target, and Dagger 7. And then the refined is magic foes cannot counterattack. So this weapon actually is still pretty unique, as it has kind of that pain effect, but on a dagger, and then it has fire sweep, but only against magic foes. And so what this lets Jaffar do essentially is he can attack, do a massive AoE with like Savage Blow on like the C slot and the seal, and then even when they attack him, he'll still do that because it's whenever he attacks, right? It's not based off if he initiates combat. So it allows Jaffar to be kind of like a nuke in a sense, like where he can passively reduce the HP on the whole enemy team. But honestly, he just doesn't have the firepower to actually do much nowadays. And because magic foes are the only units who can't counterattack, a lot of times he's just going to die to most things. So let's check out his new base effect for his weapon and see if we can really transform Jaffar into the Angel of Death. So this is the new effect on his weapon. Accelerate special cooldown count -1. If unit's HP is greater than 25%, grants attack and speed +7. And also if unit initiates combat, neutralizes effects that prevents unit's follow-up attack. After combat, if unit attack, deals 10 damage to target and foes within 3 spaces of the target, dagger 7. So essentially he still has the base effect that he had before in his weapon, but now he's going to get accelerated special cooldown, attack and speed +7, and then half of NFU. And what this is going to allow him to do is it's going to allow him to have an easier time proccing specials. The attack and speed +7 might seem a lot, and it's going to seem like a lot more in a second, but he really needs it. He has 26 base attack, which is just absolutely trash. It's super ultra terrible. Like he just doesn't have an attack stat at all. So that is one of the things he definitely needs. And then the half of NFU is going to allow him to get that second hit in, which he's also going to need to actually kill things. Okay, now let's check out his refine and see what we can do to make him truly deadly. So Jaffar's refine is foe cannot counterattack. If unit initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grants attack and speed +7 and grants special cooldown +1 per foe damage outside of combat. So this is a really cool effect in my opinion. So he's going to get just a straight fire sweep dagger. So enemies just can't counterattack against them unless they have Null-C Disrupt or like their Ascendant Fjorm or something. And then he's going to get another attack and speed +7, which is a lot of attack and speed, right? It's going to be 14 attack, 14 speed in his weapon just alone. But his stats are so abysmal, I think he definitely does need it just to perform. Easily the coolest part of the refine though is the grant cooldown +1 per foe damage outside of combat. So this is now going to make it so that when he hits that splash damage on everyone, he's also going to be reducing the cooldown of his special, which is amazing. So he's going to be able to go in, hit twice, and then do massive splash damage, and then charge his special. And I think this is perfect because Jaffar is the character who like brought lethality to the table in Fire Emblem. And so now you can put lethality on him. He goes in, maybe he kills one unit, charges his lethality, and then now he can just go in, lethality, somebody smash him, destroy them, do the AoE damage, get lethality back up again, and do it again, right? It's going to be super amazing. It's like a cool, almost special spiral effect in his weapon, but it's based off his unique properties that he already had in his weapon. And because he also gets special charge just from attacking normally, it's not going to require him to hit too many foes with this to have his special charge. I think this refine does a great job of giving Jaffar a unique niche and also allowing him to live up to that epithet of Angel of Death. So what do you think? Did I do a good job? Are the refines powerful? Did it capture what you wanted for the character? And do you think that these refines are enough to make these units usable in the current day's meta? I'd love to hear what you have to say, so make sure to drop a comment down below. Also, make sure to vote in the new poll if you want a say in who gets to be in the next re-refined video. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe. This has been Oblivion, and I'll catch you all later for more Fire Emblem Heroes.